What is up, guys? J'espère que vous allez bien, que vous êtes en pleine forme. Bienvenue sur le podcast Conversation Awesome avec KarmaKin. A place where we speak Franglish, say the word awesome a lot, mais surtout un endroit d'inspiration et d'éducation pour vous aider à optimiser votre santé globale from the inside out. Mon nom est Claudia, fondatrice de KarmaKin, et ma mission avec ce podcast est de t'amener dans un monde de développement personnel, d'optimisation d'habitudes de vie et de découverte so you can unleash your potential and live the life you truly want and deserve. Merci d'être à l'écoute. You're awesome. I'm excited for this one. What is up, guys? J'espère que vous allez bien, que vous êtes en pleine forme. Welcome if this is your first time on the show et re-bienvenue si t'es ici à chaque semaine. Petite parenthèse avant de commencer, j'ai perdu ma voix il y a à peu près 2 jours et elle revient tranquillement pas vite. So this is why I have a very sexy voice today. Mais je voulais pas remettre à plus tard l'enregistrement d'aujourd'hui parce que c'est une conversation doublement awesome. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est un épisode de la relève KarmaKin. C'est quoi ça, la relève KarmaKin? C'est des épisodes dans lesquels je m'assois avec des enfants ou des ados qui, malgré leur jeune âge, ont une sagesse qui est inspirante à partager, un talent qui est impressionnant, une passion qui devient vite contagieuse. Puis l'invité d'aujourd'hui en fait certainement pas exception. So today, I'm sitting down with Talia, who's been boxing for less than 2 years and who has accomplished so much thanks to her work ethic, her discipline, her consistency, her hard work, her dedication to her sport, the fact that she's so coachable and she takes her passion so seriously. Je suis certaine que vous allez trouver de l'inspiration à travers le partage de ses expériences, comment elle gère le stress, qu'est-ce qui l'inspire à continuer, comment elle reste focus au quotidien pour pouvoir atteindre ses objectifs. Et bref, ça me fait vraiment plaisir de la recevoir pour cette 6e épisode-là de la relève KarmaKin. Si vous voulez suivre ses accomplissements, son journey aussi à travers la boxe, c'est championnat canadien qui s'en viennent là, dans quelques mois, on en reparle dans l'épisode. Mais rendez-vous sur la page Instagram de G1 Boxing, qui est le lieu où est-ce qu'elle s'entraîne, où est-ce que vous allez pouvoir être à l'affût de tout ce qui se passe là, pour sa carrière de boxeuse. All right, sans plus tarder, let's dive in the conversation. The conversation is in English, and as always, feel free to share with us what you thought of the episode. Share this with a friend, share this with somebody who would truly benefit from hearing Talia's story and obviously get super inspired by her journey. Bonne écoute. All right, welcome Talia to the show. How are you today?
Good, and you?
I'm good, thank you, except for my sexy voice. But the energy is high. I'm grateful to have you on, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I've been following your journey ever since you started training in your basement and now qualified for the nationals. I'm a good friend of your coach, Jamal, and he was always telling me about your journey and, you know, like your work ethic and your passion and your inner drive. And you have a lot of the qualities as an athlete that reminded me of myself when I did figure skating, just always showing up, being on time, being the last person in the gym, you know, like taking things so seriously and being so involved. So you have a lot of great qualities for an athlete. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because even somebody who's listening right now and, you know, even if they're older, like don't have a specific goal for a sport, I just think that these qualities are very important just for everyday life. So I feel that you embody them really well. So I'm sure this is going to be very inspiring for people who are listening to us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you get into boxing?
So I did karate when I was younger for 11 years, and then I stopped. And then I kind of lost my way. I didn't really do anything. My grades were dropping. And then the pandemic hit and I started working out again. And then I wanted to do a combat sport. And I found Jamal because he was going door to door during the pandemic, doing coaching in the houses.
Yeah.
And then like immediately I just wanted to do boxing. Mm-hmm. And it really took off when I was able to train alone during the summer. I would go in the morning. I like the mornings better than the night. So I'd go in the morning to the gym and like I'd be by myself, but I like that. So it was cool.
What was it about boxing specifically that got you hooked? Because you did karate before, you didn't really want to go back to that sport. Like, what was it about that sport specifically that pulled you in and triggered the passion?
Um, I like the punching. I like it's kind of simpler. It's not simple, but there's like, it's more a microscope on specific things instead of like 30 different techniques.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 6, 7, 8 punches. Obviously there's different ways to throw the punches, and it's more of a mind game too.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the actual fighting aspect of it.
What do you like about training by yourself? You said that was something that you really enjoy, going to the gym by yourself. I'm the same. Like, I did figure skating in my whole life, which is a very, quote unquote, lonely solo sport. You go in, you do your thing. What is it about training by yourself that you enjoyed?
Honestly, I don't know. I just really like it. And I like to rely on myself, the independence of it.
Yes.
I just like that.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. When I started skating, I was like super tiny. I was like, I think I hit 5 feet when I was like in grade 6. And I was always, I was always like the smallest in my class, and always tiny. So I remember my coaches, they used to tell me like, oh, you should do pairs, like with a guy, like, because you're tiny, you have the perfect physique for that. And I remember saying to myself, like, no, because then I have to rely on somebody else for my own performance. Like, what if that person screws up and it's their fault that we didn't win, right? So
exactly.
I can definitely resonate with that. What is your proudest moment so far, ever since you started boxing? Tough question.
Yeah. I would say they're all like, there's so many. I don't know if I can pick just one.
You can pick a couple.
Especially in the time frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we have to remind people, like, that was like, what, 2 years ago that you started?
Actually, yesterday, a year ago, was my first fight. Wow. And then 7 months ago from yesterday is when I first started training.
Yeah, so not even 2 years, and you've accomplished a lot. So obviously there's a lot to be proud of. But yeah, a couple moments that come to mind that you want to share with us that really made you feel super proud.
Definitely the Brampton Cup. That was a fun experience. Mm-hmm. And that was like, I wouldn't say a solidifying experience, but like brought my faith a little bit higher in myself and where I could go with this. Sorry?
No, I was just going to ask, for somebody who has no clue what the Brampton Cup is.
Oh, right.
Give us some context.
It's a really big tournament in Toronto with boxers from all over Canada. It's probably one of the biggest ones in Canada. Even there was people from like Ireland and all that. So it was a big tournament for me to win. Mm-hmm. And we just went into it for fun. Like, not that we didn't think we could have won it, but we were just kind of like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And especially in the finals, I fought against this girl who had, I think, 6 or 8 more fights than me. She'd been boxing her whole life. And like before the fight, I thought I was going to die. I thought it was going to be like the worst experience of my life. And I was going to get like demolished. And then as soon as the round started, I was like, okay, no, I got this. And then I won. So
yeah, that's amazing. What goes through your brain and your mind when you're facing a big fight like that, or when you catch yourself having stressful thoughts or doubting yourself? Do you always go to your coach right away and then you can, she's like, yeah. But what's your mindset like? Like, what do you tell yourself, or like, what does your coach tell you that really helps you manage that stress when it's happening like now?
It's a different scenario every fight. First, I try to deal with it myself. Doesn't usually work, but I try.
try being the key word here.
And then I'll talk to Jamal and I'll just ask him. I'll tell him what I'm feeling, and then he'll just have a response for whatever I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. Like for my last fight, which was qualifying for the Canadian Games, that was a big one. I don't want to say I knew I had that one, but I was more confident in myself because I've been training so much and my skills were like at the highest they've ever been. So there was no reason to worry technically because there's nothing more I could have done. Yeah. But then I was thinking about the loss and like the disappointment phase and all that. And he was just like, he took all my worries away. He's like, forget it. Don't even think about that. I have your back always. And I was like, okay, that's all that matters. And I went in there and it was the best fight for me personally that I've ever had. So, yeah.
Yeah. Removing that pressure that we put on ourselves is key, eh? Because when we're going at it with like just fun and then like see what happens and showing up knowing you've done everything you could have done, in practice and in training, then that's all that matters. And yeah, it removes a bit of that stress.
Yeah.
You mentioned disappointment. Is it harder for you to picture disappointing other people, like your coach, your parents, or disappointing yourself?
I think... Wait, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Is it harder for you to imagine that, let's say something goes bad, and you lose a fight? Is it more stressful for you to think that, you're going to disappoint yourself, or that you're going to disappoint maybe your coach or your parents, or both?
My coach and my parents, for sure. Mostly my coach, but he's told me multiple times that he would not be disappointed. So yeah, I'm not worried about that anymore.
Good. Yeah, sometimes we project our own fears on other people because, our coaches or parents will love you no matter what, but we put so much pressure on ourselves, like, oh, what if, I'm not being perfect, and what if? So it's good now that you don't worry about that anymore. What has been another proud moment for you in the last 2 years?
Definitely after the Brampton Cup, when the Federation of Boxe Quebec reached out to us and told us that we were given the opportunity to qualify for the Canadian Games. That was straight off a victory. And then it was like, okay, now we're getting recognition and real things are going to happen.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah.
So how do you prep now for the Canadians? They're in a few months, in March, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's your mindset game plan? What's your training game plan? Like, how do you prep for this next level of competing?
Just train all the time. I made a new color-coded schedule because now I'm off school. So I'm just going to train all the time and make sure that I stay focused, which won't be hard, but yeah. And make sure I take off my my faults, my weaknesses, like my big ones. Like sometimes I'll drop my hands or something, so I got to fix that.
What are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis outside of the physical training to keep your focus, to work on your weaknesses?
I work on my mental state in 2 ways. I work with Jamal sends me podcasts, their motivation podcasts. And at first he's like, you're going to laugh and it sounds stupid. And then, but it actually works. So I was like, okay. And it did help. And I also did some I do some life coaching. Nice. To help me and with my energy too. Because sometimes you have a lot of bad emotions and then you can just release them. That's helpful. So I do that.
Great. Do you have any other ways to release those emotions other than punching somebody in the face?
Yeah. Great question.
I know for myself, I still journal a lot, right? So when there's something happening in my life that I need to process emotions, I'll journal about it, or I'll talk to someone who I can be really vulnerable with and have this safe space to chat about that with someone. Anything like that, or?
I'll text my best friend. She's probably so annoyed. I send her 20 text messages a day, especially when it's almost fight week. I'm always texting her. And yeah, that's what I do.
That's great. How important is it to have that support system around you, your coach, your parents, your gym, your friends?
Very important, because without it, you just spiral and then you don't get to perform as well as you want to, because your mental state is blocking your physical state.
Yeah, I agree. I know for myself in figure skating, there was a lot of emphasis on the physical training, off ice training, and, weights in the gym and cardio, and then obviously skating on the ice. But maybe 10% of that was on our mental prep. And then I didn't skate for 10 years. And then I did a comeback in 2019. And I put 80% of my prep on my mental state. And I was skating way less, training way less physically, but I ended up being better than when I was competing back when I was 18. Just because, the confidence and the mental state and being able to manage your nerves and the stress. So I'm glad that you're already at your age doing both, the physical training and the mental training as well. It's so key.
It's important because after my first fight, that's another proud moment. My first fight, right before the fight, my energy was completely drained from the nerves. I couldn't even warm up. Like, it was so bad. And my legs were dead. Like, I actually watched the video yesterday and I'm like stumbling around the ring. It's so embarrassing. But yeah, so after that, I knew I needed to make a change because if I didn't, it's just going to be the same result every time.
Do you feel that it gets better, like fight after fight, with having more experience, like being in the ring, or are the nerves still kicking quite a lot, but now you have better tools to manage them?
I would say both. I would say it does get better because you know the process a bit more. But I think the tools do help a lot because the nerves are going to come regardless and you got to deal with them.
Yeah. Especially at a higher level, you know, now it's, you know, the Canadians coming up, but then it will be like international fights, you know, so
yeah,
you got the tools, but you also got more pressure from.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we talked about some proudest moment. What was one of the biggest challenge for you in the last 2 years? Did you have any like rough patches, any moment you wanted to quit, or you weren't sure that you wanted to keep going? Any injuries? Like, what was maybe a challenge or two that you had to face?
I never wanted to quit. It has gotten hard sometimes, but that's just because I push myself too hard. I'll do like too much training in one day. I would say the challenges are mostly mental. That's just something that is tougher for me because I spiral a lot. But other than that, everything's been pretty fun.
And I think that's a great reminder for everybody. Like when we set ourselves some goals and some ambitious like targets that we want to achieve, like remembering to have fun in the process, because then like, what's the point, right? So
yeah, exactly.
And it helps go through the phases or the challenges that are a little harder, because it will get hard. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Exactly.
So remembering that I'm doing this because I love my sport and I'm enjoying the process and it's fun to come to the gym. Like that's a good reminder for sure.
Yeah. And also a hard part is to remember that bad days are okay. Your boxing isn't going to be 100% every single day. That's something like I'll have a bad day and then I'll like feel bad about it. But then I remember like, if you're always peaking, then when are you actually peaking?
Exactly. Exactly. You mentioned a couple of times that you train a lot. What's a typical workout or training day for you?
Without school?
Yeah, without school.
What I'm trying right now is wake up at 6, which is actually sleeping in for me. So wake up at 6 and then train for an hour, do a 2-hour morning routine, and then train for 2 hours, 30 minutes, take 3 hours off for lunch and rest, do a weight training for an hour and 30 minutes, take another break, and then go to the gym for the rest of the night. So usually 3 hours. Wow. And I go to bed at 9 because I like to sleep early.
Yeah, same. But I mean, with that volume of training, like you have to recover at some point.
Yeah,
so sleep is super important. What kind of training do you do during the day? Like, is it cardio? You mentioned weights. You have your actual boxing workouts as well. Like what's the variety of the stuff that you do for your physical and your conditioning?
I would say 80% of it is just working on boxing because that's what needs to be developed the most.
Yeah.
And then the 20% have weights, which I have a program I follow, just different muscle groups. And for cardio, I go to another gym and train with this guy X, and he does my conditioning and he pushes me for cardio a lot. Usually in the summer I run. It's a bit hard right now in the cold because it hurts your lungs. But at the gym, I'll use like the rowing machine or the treadmill.
Cool. And what about nutrition? We mentioned training, obviously. Nutrition's a big piece of an athlete's, prep for tournaments or fights. Do you focus on anything specific with your nutrition? Are you being coached on nutrition by anybody? Do you have healthy habits? Is it something you're struggling with?
It's something I'm struggling with. It's still something I definitely need to work on. I don't really know what to do with nutrition, So I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to look at do research and figure out what the right thing is. The main thing I focus on is eating enough because if I don't eat enough, then I can't train. And eating healthy. Sometimes my parents will buy me fries and I'll just have the whole bag. but I'm trying to work on those things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for the 80-20% rule, 80-20. So 80% of the time you have your optimal meals, but then 20% of the time, a bag of fries is fine. Or yeah. How do you deal with you're in Cégep right now. So how do you deal with partying, having a social life and going out with your friends? And
I don't. I just don't. Partying for me, I don't know. It's not something I'm interested in. I'll just go out with my friends, and usually after fights. So once every 2 months to go out. Mm-hmm. If not, I'll just have my best friend over and we'll just watch TV, and that's fine with me.
Yeah. Do you get any pressure from your friends? Oh, come on, come out with us? Or do you ever feel bad or guilty for saying no or not living the social Cégep life?
Not really, because I can see the end goal. And also this is what I love. This is now. I can go party in 20 years, Mm-hmm. I'd rather focus on my training and what's to come.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I hope people are listening. So much wisdom here. But it's true. I mean, when you have a goal, when you have your why behind it, why you want to achieve that, they're not even sacrifices. They're just common sense. Of course, if I want to win the Canadians, I'm not going to go party and drink all weekend. It's just, it probably doesn't even cross your mind, right? But
it really doesn't.
Right. So somebody who's not in that mindset or that focus, because it's so far off from their day to day, it's normal to have either judgment or, social pressure. So I'm glad that you see it this way because you said, it's happening now. Partying will always be there. And yeah. So that's cool. Who inspires you?
Big question.
Good question, eh?
It's a bit corny, but probably my coach.
It's not corny.
He sets a great example for me. And he's done a lot in his life. And it just shows. It teaches a lot of lessons.
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson he taught you?
To rely on fate. Yeah, because and on September, October, I was stressing about the fight, and he's just you don't need to stress because regardless of what happens, it's going to be up to fate. And he's right. So that took a lot of pressure off me in that fight.
Mm-hmm. He cares a lot, obviously. He's been involved in your journey, like we said, from the basement to now the Canadians. I think you set the standards really high for him, anybody else who he's coaching. So with your work ethic and your dedication and your passion and just showing up, and so that's, like I said at the beginning, right? Those are great, great qualities. What can we wish for you for 2023 for boxing? Any goals or any dreams? Or I know we have the Canadians coming up, but anything else on the pipeline for you?
Definitely the Canadian Games. That's my main focus. Like we said, we're both new, me and Jamal, so we don't really know what comes after. We're kind of just playing it. We didn't even know this was a thing. We're just playing it ear by ear. And and
that's cool too, right? Not having any expectations and just being surprised by the nature of the sport and learning as you guys go and having fun with it and just very cool. Who is Talia outside of boxing? I know it takes most of your life, most of your time and your energy and your effort and your mental space, but
I would say she's pretty relaxed because she's tired, but I like to do puzzles. Those help me relax. I like to watch a lot of TV. I love to watch TV. I don't know why, but I just like it. I like burritos a lot. Those are good. And I like to go shopping. I do like to go shopping.
Yeah, very cool. We mentioned it briefly. You're in Cégep right now, studying full-time or part-time because of boxing?
Full-time.
Full-time.
7 classes.
7 classes. I did that too. I was skating, training, even coaching when I was in Cégep, but having a full-time class workload. Where do you see yourself going with school after Cégep? Is there anything specific you would like to study? Anything that interests you? Or so
far, nothing to do with sciences, which is what I'm studying. But maybe I would pursue firefighting.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I know that I'm just going to finish this degree and then see what comes after. Mm-hmm. I'm going to explore my options. I did say I wanted to be a surgeon. I do not want to be a surgeon. It's too much school, too much time.
Yeah. One semester in after in cégep and you're like, yeah, no, I'm done with the science.
Yeah. And not just that, but like sitting in class and listening, I'm like, I'd rather be training. I'd rather be focusing on boxing. So I'm not going to spend like 7-8 years of my life in something that isn't my number one priority, for me at least.
Yeah, it's cool. You're still young, so you have plenty of time to figure it out and try different things and be exposed to different, fields of study and different classes. And even with boxing, right? Like who knows where that's going to take you. And do you see yourself becoming a boxing coach at some point, or is coaching not really?
No, I would definitely do it.
Yeah.
Pass on Jamal's wisdom. I haven't coached, but I've done pads with some girls in the kids classes, and I like that a lot. I would definitely do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same for me. I started being an assistant coach when I was like 9 years old because I was like, this is so cool. I get to share my own passion and my own experience from like a sport that I love to like other kids, and they're like getting better because of me. Like I thought I was just so cool. Right. So for me, like I started coaching when I was like being paid, to coach when I was 16. Like I never done anything else. So yeah, it's pretty cool when you get to, use your own talent and passion to help other kids. And I'm sure like everybody at the gym looks up to you so much, right? From seeing your journey. So for them, it's such like a high vibe moment of like, oh my God, like Talia, like she was holding the pads for me. So yeah, I'm sure you have more opportunities to do that. Well, Talia, thank you so much. We're going to wish you all not the luck, because it's not about luck. It's about showing up and being consistent, which you are already doing. So I'm just going to wish you that the next year unfolds exactly how it's meant to unfold for you, however that's going to look like for you. Keep being this consistent, dedicated, passionate. It's going to transfer to any other areas of your life. You're still young. You're still almost like starting in boxing, even though you've done a lot so far. So I'm not worried that the future looks bright for you, regardless of where it takes you. And I'm sure that, your journey inspired a lot of the listeners today. So thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I actually have one more question that I ask all my guests at the end of the episodes. And it's, what's your favorite quote and why?
I'd have to think about that one.
Take your time.
Maybe not a quote, but something that I live by, I guess, is just that the work will speak for itself. And I like to speak through the work.
That's great. You're embodying that perfectly.
Thank you.
J'espère que cette conversation awesome t'a inspiré. Et d'ailleurs, I would love to hear back from you. Rejoins KarmaKin sur les réseaux sociaux and tag me in a post pour partager ce que tu retiens de cet épisode. Je serais vraiment grateful aussi si tu pouvais me laisser un rating and review pour le podcast. Ça me permet d'avoir un impact positif sur plus de gens comme toi. Merci beaucoup d'avoir été à l'écoute, and until next time, je te souhaite une journée awesome.